Good morning, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and as you can see, I'm in the car. I'm headed down to West Virginia, and I decided to stop off in Verona, Virginia to get my Dairy Queen Blizzard that I always get, but right next door, or practically next door, is Verona Antiques. Now, this is an antique mall that I have stopped at before, and I've picked up comic books before. They've got a lot of boxes, and I'm looking forward to picking through the boxes today. I came down early on this trip, so I've got some time to go in and dig through the boxes and see if I can find some books that have been overlooked, some keys, maybe find something that's worth something that I can grade and maybe clean and press and get graded. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe we find some run fillers. I don't know. But today I devoted to spending a little time in there going through the boxes and just having fun. So we're going to go in. I'm going to shoot a little bit of footage and I'm going to see what kind of comic books I can find. So stay tuned and I'll be right back. All right, everybody, I just finished up at Verona Antiques, and I had a great time digging through every one of their back issue bins. It's semi-organized, but it's one of those that you just have to dig through it and find stuff, and you can find some nice little gems in there. Nothing huge, but they've got some decent smaller keys on the wall, but you can find some things in the bins if you really spend the time doing that. And that's what I devoted this trip to do, was to be able to spend as much time as I wanted to going through every one of the bins and see what I could find. And luckily I found some things, including a book that was just on the cover price top 10 list because of a certain animated show that was on Disney Plus. That's the only clue you're going to get, but you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So I ended up finding that book. I'll show it to you when I get home. But let me get home, and I will pull these books out, and I'll show you everything that I got. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Many unbearable hours later.
All right, everybody, I finally made it to my house in West Virginia. I had a good drive down here today, and I had a good time at Verona Antiques going through all the comic books. The owner of those comic books was there on site, and so we sat there and chatted comic books while I was digging through every bin. I had a great time going through all of those. I was glad that I came down early and I was able to spend as much time as I wanted going through every one of those boxes. Again, the boxes, some of them will be, I wouldn't say completely in order, but you'll find Avengers together, you'll find Green Lantern together, but you'll also find it'll be just a mix of stuff, and it's all over the place. I didn't take a lot of footage today, but there was a lot of comic books, and I went through every box. I even found some Invaders books, and I was excited because I found one of them that was in high enough grade that I would have gotten it, but it was already checked off on my list, so I didn't get that book. But nonetheless, I did find some things, and again, to kind of follow this thing I'm doing right now is I'm going out there and I'm just looking at comics and seeing what there is. A lot of Bronze Age, early Copper Age books that may not have been on my radar at one point, going back and continuing the Invaders runs, for example, or starting on a Defenders run. And some of these other books like this, surprisingly, at a high grade, if you get these things clean to press and you can pull a 9.8 on that, have some surprising value. Now, the catch is, if it isn't a 9.8, it's going to drop down dramatically. And you'll see that as we go through some of the prices as I go through these books. So let's just start with the first one right here. I picked up, this is not a book that was on my radar or I had ever seen, because it wasn't a title that I was getting. But let me show it to you. It's DC Comics Presents number 67. This came out in March of 1984. And you've got Superman and Santa Claus. And you can see they're teaming up against the Toy Man right there. This has got a beautiful, beautiful Jose Luis Garcia Lopez cover. And this is a book that I'd be tempted to take down to Heroes Con to get him to sign this. But I didn't buy it necessarily for that. It was one of those, it caught my eye because, I don't know, surprisingly, it seems like a lot of these DC Comics Presents comics have actually gone up in value. And I think that's the effect of the issue with He-Man, the issue with the new Teen Titans first appearance, the first appearance of Mongol. Books like that have gone up in value, and I think all of them have kind of gone up in value. It's surprising because I never liked this book, whereas The Brave and the Bold with Batman was one of my favorite comic books growing up. But I never had this book, and I did a quick look after seeing it and seeing what kind of good condition it was in. I did a quick look up on Go Collect, and 9.8 actually just sold here back in, I guess it would be April, for $125. And I'm like, okay, that's surprising. 9.6 is though dropped down to $64. So this is a book that I picked up for a few bucks, but if I could possibly get a 9.8 on this, it'd be really good. If it doesn't, I don't know if I'd actually send it into grading. Depending on how well this comes out of a clean and press, I would definitely put this into a pre-screen before I send it to the CGC. So that was the first book. And it's funny, one of the first, actually that was the first one I picked up, but there were some other books around it. And right next to it was a box of X-Men. There were X-Men all over the place at this, and we'll get into that as we go along here. But I picked up a really nice copy of the first full appearance of Bishop in X-Men 283, December 1991. And this is a book that has dropped, just like a lot of books have dropped, even at 9.8s. Recent sale only went for $79, but this was a super clean copy, a book that I've had multiple copies of in the past, but I went ahead and picked it up anyway. And here's a book that I talked about the last couple of times that I was at Verona Antiques that I picked up. 2 trips ago, my very first trip here, I picked up this comic. There were 3 of them there. And I went back a second time looking for it. And as I said, there's too many boxes. And I went through, I didn't have enough time to go through them properly. That time, the second time I was there, and I couldn't find the additional copies that I bought one. I was going after those other 2. And I couldn't find it. But this time, I had all the time in the world to spend there. And that's what I did. I went through every box and I ended up finding it. I ended up getting one of the 2 remaining copies of Batman Adventures number 7. And not necessarily a key or anything, but it is a newsstand. And surprisingly, the newsstands, now I haven't seen a lot of sales on this, but I've seen some very live, active listings on eBay right now for $300 for a 9.4 in this. Now, 9.8s in a direct, Go Collect did not give me a difference between a direct or a newsstand, but a direct went for $150 as a 9.8. 9.6s went for $85. My feeling is that price is the direct price. This is a newsstand. There is one little it's not, it looks like a spine tick, but it's very faint, and it acts more like a color rub than anything. And this was the next best copy. Now, I picked up the best copy months ago, and it's still in the shop ready to get pressed, but I went ahead and picked this one up for a few bucks more too. That has some potential to it. All right, next up is another Batman title, and this is a book that 2 years ago I went in on. It was not an expensive book to get, but I'll tell you about the defect that I kept finding on this. It is Batman 457. This is the first appearance of Tim Drake in the new Robin costume. And he's not Robin yet, but he is in the new Robin costume. And this is a book that actually, over the last 2 years, had some really good values in 9.8. Right now, though, 9.8s have dropped under $100, $88 for something like this. I don't know. It is not even listed on Go Collect with any kind of key information. But I did go back. I knew it was a key, so I had to go back to one of the other comic book sites to find out exactly what it was. I know it had something to do with Tim Drake and Robin. I just had to see what exactly it was. But it is the first time that Tim Drake is in the Robin costume. And the defect that's on here, and I think we'll take this out of the bag and board and see if it has it. On the back of the cover, on just about every copy that I ever bought on this, no matter how good this was, in the back, I want to say about halfway down, in the middle, off to the right or left just a little bit, is a printing crease on the paper. And the first time I ever got that, and I was getting into cleaning and pressing, I had these grand illusions of being able to take that wrinkle out of the paper. And I made a mess of it because it looks unnatural once you take that wrinkle out. So I didn't send that one in to get graded. But in time since, I had gotten at least one of these graded in 9.8, sold it at least 2 years ago at this point. But let's open this up and let's see if this copy has the defect. Now, this was not an expensive copy, but sure enough, right there, let me see if the light, can you see it right there? See that little, I'm just doing the light. There's a little wrinkle. Now, this one isn't wrinkled as much as I've seen other ones. In fact, this is one, when I clean and press this right here, right there, you see it? When I clean and press it, this one doesn't, you can see it, it's almost like a crease, like a finger crease on this one. And a lot of them, it is a ripple in the paper and you cannot get it out. This one, though, I think I'm going to be able to, with the help of a little bit of moisture and using a steel ball or an aluminum ball, is it steel? I think it's steel. I can work that crease out because it's not really affecting the paper in the sense it's not rippled. It is just a little bit of a crease. So this is actually a really nice copy. All right. These books right here up next were some of the last ones that I found. They were the last boxes I went through. And let me show you what I picked up. It had a whole giant box of Alpha Flight. And he didn't have issue number 33, but he had 34. And this is right after Mike Mignola took over the art on the book. I'm not sure who was writing this, but John Byrne had been doing this book. It was his book. And Mike Mignola was over on The Incredible Hulk. And they basically switched teams. John Byrne went over The Incredible Hulk and had this amazing, I want to say 5 or 6 issues that were just absolutely beautiful. I love those. That was some of my favorite Hulk issues. But Mike Mignola coming over to this was fantastic too. And this is the second of a 2-part story helping define the history of Wolverine. In this, it kind of explains where the adamantium skeleton comes from. And this is not the key issue right here, although this continues that origin. The issue right before is actually the key because it also features the first appearance of Lady Deathstrike. And you can see her right here on the cover. This might be her first cover appearance right here. And this was before she ended up becoming the version of Lady Deathstrike that we all know today from that famous issue with Barry Windsor Smith of X-Men. What issue was that? Was it 205? I cannot remember. but where she was embedded with the adamantium herself. And this right here, anyway, was her first appearance. Her father was the one who developed the skeleton system that Wolverine has. So I didn't pick up just one of these. I actually picked up two because they're really nice shape. This is a book that 9.8s range. They haven't really sold in the last year, but can range anywhere from the last year. I saw sales of $73 up to $165. Again, candidate for a pre-screen 9.8. You don't want it dropping down because the last sale on this as a 9.6 dropped all the way down to $33. But I wasn't done with the Alpha Flight at that point. As I'm going through the box, now I've got all these books. I continued up until probably into the early 40s, and then I dropped the title. So I don't have anything really past 40, 42, something like that. So I didn't pick up any of the John Byrne issues. I didn't pick up any of the other Mike Mignola books, but I did pick this up. Issue number 40. The significance of this is it was Marvel's 25th anniversary, and you can see I got two copies. 25th anniversary frame right here. And this was 1986. And I'm not sure who did the art for this. This is after Mike Mignola. I don't think he was on the book at this point right here. But 9.8s only go for about $79. I don't know if this would be a CGC candidate, but this is definitely one of those that I'll hold on to a copy. I may end up selling the other one too. There are a lot of collectors out there who love these 25th anniversary frames. So I may save that for that right there. But really good high quality books. And even though didn't come with a board in these, some of these, I mean, it is scattering. There's a lot of raw comic books at this flea market, this antique mall as well. But most of them are at least bagged, if not bagged and boarded. All right, so I'm just having fun at this point. I'm just going through the boxes and seeing what I see. If I happen to find something that really is on my list, I'm pulling it out and going, okay, that's good. I can't believe I found this. But I'm an open door today. I opened the door to just, let's see what I can find. Let's see what kind of keys that I can dig through and find today. Well, I found this. Conan issue number 100, and it is a square bound book right here, but it is in really nice shape. Now, this is not a super valuable book, getting it graded. I checked out maybe $100 if you're lucky, $98, $93 are some of the most recent sales. But this is I guess a minor key, the death of, I don't know how to say her name. Is it Belit, B-E-L-I-T? I do not know how to say that. But John Buscema, I think, was still doing the artwork on here. But that's a nice milestone issue right there, issue 100. And I didn't pick it up just to be a run filler. These are pretty high-grade copies of everything I'm picking up. Now, this right here, I probably paid too much for it. But I really liked the book. And I've mentioned the artist before, and we'll talk more about him. But I picked up Action Comics 484. You got this beautiful wedding of Lois and Superman cover right there by the same artist I mentioned before on DC Comics Presents, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. I hope I said that all right. That's a lot of names. And while the other one I may not take to Charlotte necessarily to get signed, this is one that I would really consider getting signed. I think this is super cool. What a great cover. Surprisingly, I thought this would be a much more valuable book. I was finding 9.8s literally for $56 on this. And I didn't see the price on this until I got home, but I'd already decided to go ahead and I spent $20 on this. Higher than I probably should have if you can buy a 9.8 already at $5.56. But how soon could I get that in to go, and can you still get it for $56? That's always the thing. When you see those sold prices, well, that's great. That one person bought that book for that price. But is there another one for $56 or not? That's a lot of people use Go Collect and some of the other pricing apps like that. But if there are no more out there at $56, is it truly still a $56 comic book? I don't think so. I think that the market, the sellers can ask for what they sell, and then the buyers, if they want it, they can offer what they want at that point. So it may not necessarily be 56. I may not be able to find it for that again, but this was a really nice copy. 9.6, the only one I could find on Go Collect, 9.6 sold, I think it was back in 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic, before everything got bad. Signed by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez for $215. So that one right there is very intriguing to me to get this book signed. But what a great cover. Take a look at that. That's absolutely gorgeous. I was just surprised that a 9.8 would be as low as $56. That seems like a classic cover right there, right, guys? All right, now, as I said, they had raw comics all over the place there, and I always have a problem thumbing through raw comics. I'm afraid I'm going to damage them. But I did go through some things, and I found this, and I completely admit I bought this simply to get signed, depending on how much he's charging, down in Charlotte at Heroes Con. But Ron Lim is going to be there. Now, everybody knows him as the artist that worked on Silver Surfer for years. But before that, he was doing stuff like this right here from Pied Piper Comics, The New Humans. And this was, I think it was a follow-up to the X Mutants. I think that's what it was. But this is some wild stuff right here. I don't even have an age. This came out in 1987. I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, this is the kind of art you would expect from companies like Pied Piper, from Alliance, I think was a company. No, what was it? I can't remember the company, but there was a title called Heroes Alliance that was out there at the same time. They got this weird 80s hair. I mean, this artwork, honestly, is just, take a look at this. I mean, for someone who really did fantastic work on Silver Surfer for many years, and came back, I think, been doing recent stuff as well. This stuff is atrocious, but I wouldn't mind getting it signed. I think it's more of a novelty. So I may take that to Charlotte to get signed. And then, as I said, there were plenty of X-Men comics there. And one of the things I should have gone through, they had a whole box of the X-Men with the titles all focused with the Age of Apocalypse. And I wasn't thinking until I left there, because I have not seen, at this point, I still haven't seen the last episode of the animated X-Men 97. And my understanding is, spoiler alert, I'm going to say something here. If you guys haven't watched it, it's on you. What I heard was it leads into, the very end leads into Age of Apocalypse. We'll see. I don't know how much that's true, but the owner there actually had a whole box set up dedicated to the Age of Apocalypse books. So I went through them, but I've got all those books. I don't know if I needed anything or not. I don't know if there's any keys necessarily. Nothing was popping out at me, I'll put it that way. But there were plenty of other X-Men boxes there. And I didn't want to get into just buying. I was trying to find books that were interesting to me or possibly had CGC possibilities, and sometimes both. But I found a nice run of X-Men with, I may mispronounce it, but Chris Bachalo? How do you say his name? I've never actually heard it said out loud. I've heard it said different ways out loud. I don't know which one's right, but you've got this beautiful, this is X-Men. Which one is this? 466. You got this beautiful Jean Grey cover right there. But to top that off, actually, I found this. This one actually has some value. This one right here, 466. If you wanted to get something like this graded, maybe $70. But this one right here is $354. And this is right here an iconic variant cover to this issue right here, and it's still Chris Bachalo. I'm just going to say Bachalo, cover of Jean Grey as Phoenix. This is absolutely a stunning book. If I ever see him again, this is a book I'll have to get signed, because look at that big signing area right there, right? This is a book, though, 9.8, surprisingly only $80, but signed by Chris Bachalo. and I'm not sure what the date was. Most of the dates, if I don't have them listed on my notes there, usually are within this year, sometime in the last 4 to 6 months, $250. So this is a book right here that I will have on hand if he shows up at either a Baltimore this year or Heroes Con, or down the road when I get a chance to see him again. But what a beautiful cover right there. And then the last book that I picked up for today was a book that it turns out if you go to Verona Comics, which is set up completely in Verona Antiques. This is the owner that was there. He has his own Facebook page, and he posts occasionally some bigger key books that may pop up. So he's advertising on Facebook, on social media. And I never saw that until after I had left. But I'm digging through the boxes, and I find this. And I pull it out immediately, look at the condition, make sure it's okay. And I found this right here. Here is your cover price top 10 book from, at this point when this video comes out, it's probably going to be a couple weeks old. But this is the issue where you have Magneto pulling the adamantium out of Wolverine right there. Now I've got this book. It's still in the PC. I've never pulled it out since I put it away many years ago. I know I've got it though, and I thought that was pretty cool. But on the owner's social media page, he literally has this issue and issue 25 of X-Men, which is another hologram with the John Romita artwork, junior artwork. But it's funny that he had 2 copies of both. And I never did see the. I'll put it this way. This was buried in a box, and you saw the video. I went through every one of those boxes, and I found this finally. I wasn't looking, but I found it. The other copy of this, and then the one copy of X-Men 25 was actually up in a counter. Right at the counter, they had a glass display. It's behind the glass. He had the other copy of this and that X-Men 25 up there. So it's funny that I actually ended up finding the other copy of this. I didn't win a prize or anything. He did give me a little bit of discount on all of this. But anyway, that was it. I had a great time. Highest recommendation, stopping in Verona, Virginia. It's down on 81, south of, well, let's see, it's north of Lexington, south of I-64, heading out to Charlottesville. And I stopped at this exit for many years on all of my travels back and forth between my West Virginia home and my Maryland home. I still do it. Every month I come down and go back. And I stopped off in Verona because it turns out they have a Dairy Queen there that has some of the best blizzards I've ever had. They do a great job with it. And I'd seen this antique store for years. It looks like a derelict building, like I'd be scared to go in there. But I finally ventured in, and it is loaded. They have got so much stuff in there. I highly recommend you guys going there. And if you want to check out the comics, definitely check out the comics there. The main batch of these comics are at the very back of the store. And just have fun, go digging. And if you do, you got to let me know. So definitely leave me a comment in the comment section if you ever go there. And let me know what you think of the books that I picked up today. But guys, that is it. I had a lot of fun. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, though, definitely hit that like, slap the subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the episodes that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the weekend down here in West Virginia. I'll be back in Maryland soon, but I will also be back for the next episode. So join me then, and until then, remember, every comic has a story.